Hi, welcome to this channel on magnetic energy technology principles applications. This is a kind of a follow-up video on why fundamental particles really cannot exist according to like this etheric magnetic model of the universe. This is highly unconventional alternative science information. So starting at the very basic thing about the fundamental particles and this idea that they are like solid, or well, they're not solid, not that they're solid, but like that they basically don't change, and they don't have core structures, they don't have like subatomic components or deeper components to them. And then the idea, like in conventional science, that they're not really connected interdimensionally to energy flowing in and out of things, because unless you're in like higher level science and physics, or in a top secret lab, conventional science doesn't really buy into that idea. So that starts a huge problem right there, because in this magnetic model and in top secret labs in different locations around the world, pretty much everything depends on the flow of etheric magnetic interdimensional energy, including any type of subatomic or quantum components. And so that, just from that foundation alone, if some way, somehow, the fundamental particles that I've talked about, if they actually did exist and there was no interdimensional energy flowing into them to sustain them and keep them whatever, from degrading and everything, one of the first things that would happen with matter in general is you would have entropy, like starting from the quantum level on up. So there's a reason why this universe stays so incredibly organized and so incredibly beautiful and in harmony and everything. And it's because there's energy transferring to everything that basically renews things into and renews the organization and everything from the quantum level on up. If you take away that flow of energy and you have these mystical, mysterious fundamental particles that, in my opinion, are complete and utter bullshit, but anything that exists in this reality, in what we consider the physical universe, the very existence of it depends on energy flowing into it, exchanging energy, and flowing out of it, going back into other dimensions. And that without that, everything literally starts falling apart. And one of the reasons why top secret labs buy into this so heavily is because a lot of them have the technology where they cut off the etheric magnetic flow from something and literally watch it degrade to nothing. And so that, from that perspective alone, there's technology that backs it. Now, in defense of like a conventional scientist at a university or something, in their defense, if they were to develop technology that was similar to top secret labs, that technology will be confiscated immediately. Most likely their funding will be cut. Or they may be found dead, and or they may disappear completely, or they may be taken to work at a top secret lab to contribute to these projects, and then forced to sign all kinds of NDAs and everything where they can't talk about anything. So in their defense, they are not given the tools that really unravel all of their theories, and physics is struggling so badly. I mean, it literally has barely made any progress in decades, and that's a huge problem because they're not given what other scientists are working with, and that's not fair. Okay, so the other problem, and a lot of quantum physicists come against this problem, is you start unraveling quantum mechanics and different things that we have so much physical evidence to support it. Like, for example, quantum entanglement. If you take away quantum, like, how are you going to explain, oh, well, I guess it's quantum foam, or something. Spooky action at a distance in this etheric magnetic model, it requires magnetic energy and magnetic energy reactions and etheric magnetic reactions that travel at a nearly infinite velocity in order to have quantum entanglement. You take away that process and that interdimensional process, and you act like there's fundamental particles that cannot take in any energy, you're completely fucked. I mean, you will not have any more quantum entanglement. That's a massive problem for our existence, but it's also just a massive problem because it flies right in the face of other experimental data. Now, when you think about stars, the elegant magnetic etheric model of the universe, it's so elegant. And the idea that stars produce these beautiful like pulses of energy that travel super efficiently, and then they convert and elongate into waves and everything. And that inside of those photons, if you want to call it that, or that reaction in the etheric magnetic field, there are identifiable signatures. Now, in top secret labs, they go into incredible detail, breaking down the resonant signatures of star light from different stars and mapping that. And that is a huge, what that does for you in terms of space travel is it allows you to attract to that energy specifically from other stars and move way beyond light speed travel. And so this is like black ops and top secret space programs, and they utilize these type of principles in this technology. I mean, a lot of reasons because they were given it, but they've also have an unlimited budget to develop it. And so now, if you were to take all that away and just say, "Oh no, 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 there's fundamental particles. They don't change. They're the building blocks of the universe." Blah blah blah, and every star just emits those, and they're all the same. And they're no, they just come off as waves. There's no pulses. They're just waves. You run into a lot of problems as soon as you do that. First of all, if they start doing the math and if they start really thinking this through, 90% of all life in the universe would essentially perish if you were to simply have a system where billions and billions of stars are crossing waves, and the waves will degrade. There's going to be all kinds of refraction and deflection and all kinds of problems with it. It's not going to be this beautiful system that allows light to get to planets and then come into the atmosphere at very specific frequencies and resonant pulse rates and everything. There's a reaction that takes place when you go from a pulse to a wave. That reaction requires an etheric magnetic influx of energy, and these are signatures that happen. If you take away that idea, you are completely fucked. The system won't even function properly. And unless you have very high technology, you wouldn't be able to, like natural life would not be able to survive in our realm. So matter would just start to fall apart and degrade. The stars and the way light is produced would become a massive problem. And then we get to gravity. You've got to have gravity resonant signatures in all of your gravitational fields. Top secret labs are very well aware of this, and they use technology that matches the resonant signatures and the pulse rates of gravity, and it counteracts gravity and utilizes gravity. So you have anti-gravity of all these things. This whole process is very well documented in top secret labs, and I'm not spilling any real beans here or anything. So this is a problem in conventional physics because they are lumping gravity into this stupid force that's just dedicated by mass, and it's not. It's a resonant force. It's a resonant signature force, and there are quantum level resonant signatures that go infinitely deep that are mapped from every single different body in our solar system and beyond, and every single star. So every single gravity field is slightly different, and that's hugely important. If you take away that whole system, and you're talking about things like kinetic energy and force and motion, all of these things, and pressure in systems, all of these things in the etheric magnetic model are dependent on the flow of interdimensional etheric magnetic energy to make all of those phenomena they basically manifest in this dimension. If you take away that process and you break it down to stupid fundamental particles, the whole universe would begin to collapse on itself. Gravity would not work the way it's supposed to. And then you would end up struggling, going, "Oh my God, none of the math works. How's the universe expanding so fast? Why are things that don't have the right mass moving too fast? Oh my God, we got to make stupid ass, dumb ass shit like dark matter and dark energy to try to balance our equations and to try to rectify everything because we can't figure out what's happening. Our observations are not lining up with scientific models because, again, it's not fair. The conventional scientists that are struggling, they've been struggling for decades with all of these problems, are not given the technology and they are not given the knowledge from top secret labs that demonstrates that gravity is a function of a magnetic etheric model and a pulse rate, and it changes, and all the dynamics of that, the quantum resonant signatures of that, change from planet to planet to planet to planet. And so this is another thing. So you've got matter would fall apart, light would not work properly, gravity would not work properly, the forces of nature would not work properly. And then it really comes down to really crazy ass things like breaking down matter. As soon as you lump it all into stupid fundamental particles, it makes the technology that top secret labs are utilizing, where they basically will they formulate, deformulate, reformulate matter, none of that technology would work. So you have to be able to have map the quantum resonance signatures that are way deeper than any kind of fundamental particle. There can be no fundamental particle. And that gives you the ability to replicate things and to basically break down matter into nothing, and create, if you want to, or formulate matter out of the etheric realm. This is hugely important. The other problem is the whole idea of the law of attract. Similar energies attract to each other. The energy that flows into particles from the upper dimension has all kinds of interesting, very complex encoding, and primarily neutral, but then all kinds of polarized encoding in it. And that is hugely important to everything that happens in nature around us, keeping balance and harmony in nature. And the law of attract is gigantic in the universe. If you just break all matter down into fundamental particles, are the building blocks of everything, you have a massive problem with the law of attract. Things will not work. Things will not function. Things will, it contributes to the collapse of the universe, to matter pulling in on itself. It's just a whole big mess, but it's the function of life. It's the function of plants, of animals, of humans, and how our system works, how our memories are retained, how our nervous system functions. All of this requires incredibly deep embedded encoding that has to go way deeper than any fundamental particle. Otherwise, the law of attract will come into play, and it will make all of this stop working properly. We won't have all the illusion, if you want to call it that, of autonomy. Not to mention, we wouldn't even be able to interface with these physical bodies to do incarnations. It wouldn't even be possible. So we're coming in as an energy being, and we're interfacing with physical bodies. I know this is going way out there, but if we were dependent on all of our physical bodies and everything in nature that has an interdimensional connection and an energy connection, none of it can function if all there are fundamental particles. It won't work, because we have to have that infinitely deep encoding from an energetic level point of view and from an upper dimensional point of view in order to properly interface with these physical bodies. That's really important. And so the list just goes on and on, but I had to put this video out there because from an etheric magnetic point of view, the idea of fundamental particles is beyond absurd. And there are plenty of experiments and technologies and everything in top secret labs. And there are people that understand all of this way more than I do, and that support that there really are no such thing as fundamental particles. And it's important as we go through this transition in consciousness, that belief has to go away, because it opens the door for us to really move into a more advanced society that will be more in harmony with nature and not fighting against nature with all of our technology like we currently do. It's so beyond idiotic. It's so beyond absurd what we are doing to this planet right now. And we have to move beyond science that locks in the mind and traps us into certain paradigms that limit our scientific progress. All of those things have to break down. This is hugely important. As we transcend in consciousness, all of those old models have to break down so that we can move into a higher science that is more in harmony with nature and not limited by ridiculous notions like fundamental particles. Please send in any questions and comments that you have. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you again next time.